St John.
A little bit about me. Well, one of the first games I ever became involved in back in 1995 was Duke Nukem 3D. And not just because I had decided to become a voice actor, but partially because of luck. One of the top casting directors in the video game industry happens to live in San Diego, where I live. And while working at a radio station, she came in to record a commercial one day and started doing all of her wacky, crazy voices. And then I started doing my wacky, crazy voices back at her. And she suggested that I audition for a video game called Duke Nukem 3D, which I did and got the part. And since then, it's, you know, here we are 180 some odd games later. And, it's been a wild ride and a good time. So there you go. That's how it started for me. Questions? Yeah.
What did you think of this? Have you played any of the Duke Nukem games, or what did you think of them if you did?
Oh, sure. I played them all. I like the early games, the 90s games. When Duke Nukem Forever came out, I was thrilled that they had actually done it. I wish the graphics had been more up to date because you know, the game got panned by critics whom are young people who didn't necessarily play the original Duke Nukem games in the 90s, so they didn't get it. They didn't understand. You know, were you one of those?
No, I like it.
They didn't understand what Duke Nukem was all about. They expected it to be, you know, modern graphics, Call of Duty, et cetera, and so they panned the game for that. If they had played it for the value of what Duke Nukem is all about, they would have really enjoyed it. So I think a lot of the critics were too young to remember the original, perhaps, and they're the ones who panned the game. I personally love Duke Nukem Forever. I think it was the best of all of the Duke Nukem games because the lines are so raunchy, racy, hot and steamy, and they were all written by 2 women. It's pretty cool. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
For the games, were you aware of all the cheat codes and stuff that went along with the games? Did you ever use them yourself?
I had to. I'm not really a gamer. I'm more of a voice actor, so to get through any game, I need the cheat codes. So with Duke Nukem 3D, I knew all of the cheat codes right from the very beginning and really enjoyed playing that one. My favorite cheat code, by the way, was DN clip, which meant turning off clipping mode so you could walk right through walls. No faster way to win a game than being able to walk right through walls, especially when you're trapped. As far as modern games, I don't know, do they even have cheat codes anymore? Yeah?
It's more of a patch.
Well, oh, yeah. I don't really play a whole lot of games these days. I think the last thing I played was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit because I like racing driving games, and it's really awesome on the iPad. As a challenge, I have Duke Nukem 3D on the iPad, and I play that one because the controls are so difficult, so different from using a joystick or a keyboard, that it made it a new challenge all over again. So I'm replaying that one currently.
We were talking about before about the negative response to Duke Nukem Forever. What was the worst, like if you had a bad fan interaction with somebody, oh that game's something like it really laid into you about, as if you had something to do with anything other than the voice. Like what was the worst experience you had with a fan of the game, you know?
It wasn't actually about the game itself, but I was at a convention where I was, I try not to ever make political comments, but sometimes I do. Sometimes the title of my voice panel is Jon St John Voice Whore, because I said, well, I'll record anything for money, I don't give a damn. With 2 exceptions. And one was, I don't like to do political ads for the Republican Party. It's just a personal choice. And I will not do, period, I will not do any ads for gun and knife shows.
So I can't get you to say, vote for your local Republican, like, you know.
Probably not.
Okay, I'm just here.
Probably not. Libertarian or Democratic candidate, perhaps, but Republican, no.
My party will be disappointed.
Oh. But gun and knife shows I won't do. A few years ago, I remember, I think it was in Oklahoma or Colorado or something, there was a gun and knife show. A man took his 8-year-old son to this thing and let him fire an Uzi, which recoiled and took the kid's head off. And I decided at that point I will not, because I used to do a lot of ads, you know, I do a lot of commercial work and, you know, voicing gun and knife shows. This weekend at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, you know. I can't do those anymore. So anyway, I had mentioned this in a panel at a convention, and I don't know why the guy became so angry, but the only person I've ever unfriended on Facebook started ranting on every post I did about how I was a hypocrite and an idiot because I'm Duke Nukem and I'm all violent, and yet I won't do ads for gun and knife shows. And it got to a point where this guy didn't realize I'm not Duke Nukem. Hello? I'm Jon St John. I have a different set of values and morals than Duke Nukem, and I had to finally unfriend him because he was just being obnoxious about it. So, as far as, you know, somebody panning a game that I make, go ahead. No skin off my nose. You know, I get paid either way. So, you can knock the games I'm in all you want. All I did was put the voice on it. If you think my voice acting sucked, I may be a little bit hurt by that, but, you know, whatever.
I have no complaints like that.
Oh, well, thank you.
All of them very good.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, favorite role? Favorite role, if it is a Duke Nukem game, just say favorite game, a specific one. My favorite role as a voice actor for experienced voice acting role.
I have two favorites really because of the way they turned out. The spokesperson for Sweet Tooth in Twisted Metal 4, because he's just maniacally crazy, and I lost my voice for a couple of days. You know, he goes, "My boss Calypso!"
Yes,
yes. Yeah. So after, you know, 2 or 3 hours of recording that, I lost my voice. Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't believe that's, you know.
It's funny too, a little side story about the Twisted Metal 4 game is for years at conventions I've been telling fans, oh yeah, I'm the voice of Sweet Tooth's spokesperson, the little clown. I didn't realize I'm also General Warthog, Ralph Jones, Orbital, 5 or 6 of the characters that you can play in the game at the end, I'm their voices as well. I had forgotten. I'm old, I forget things.
Well, it's better than them using your voice without you getting paid for it.
True. And then the other would be from Half-Life Opposing Force. It's Dwight T. Barnes, the drill instructor, because it was kind of a takeoff of Arlie Ermey from Full Metal Jacket. You know, what is your major malfunction, son? I love doing that voice.
I didn't know that was you.
Now you do. Yes, sir.
Going back for promoting things, there was a famous, one of the, in fact there was a cheat code also in one of the games. You typed in Duke Nukem, and if you were on a rooftop, you look up and there's a Duff balloon flying down behind your rust. Did you end up doing anything to promote Duff balloon?
No, and I don't know if Gearbox or 3D Realms or anybody else really promoted it. I don't know how the heck they were able to get away with that, to be honest with you. I would assume Duff Beer was trademarked by Matt Groening, but, you know, for The Simpsons. But, no, we didn't actually do anything to promote that. I thought it was pretty funny, too, though. I don't know how they got it in there.
Especially you get the beers that we shoot at.
It's pretty cool.
You said you did commercials. What would be like the most prominent commercial that
as far as on a national level, national commercials, there was a Toshiba's Printers spot I did a few years ago, an Old Spice deodorant commercial, where it smelled amazing for 48 hours, that kind of voice. I'm often on commercials where people don't recognize my voice because I do takeoffs of like Don Pardo from Saturday Night Live and Sam Elliott.
Can you give us a little Don Pardo?
It's Saturday Night Live with Fred Armisen.
That blows my Don Pardo.
You know, it's not spot on, but it doesn't have to be in this business because I do a lot of corporate work, you know, corporate videos where TaylorMade Golf out of San Diego, for instance, they use me a lot. So they may have a corporate meeting once a year and they'll have me as Don Pardo record all of the introductions for their corporate show, you know, their new product or whatever.
And those drunk corporate guys, they're like, it's Don Pardo.
They believe it's Don Pardo.
You got Don Pardo.
Don Pardo, by the way, was one of the inspirations for me for voice acting. Mel Blanc, Don Pardo, and Gary Owens, really, because I was a radio guy for many years. And when I was a kid, way before you guys were born, watching Laugh-In on television.
Oh, yeah, Laugh-In.
Gary Owens with his hand to his ear, you know, never put a cobra in your friend's shower. You know, he always had those weird, wacky lines, and as a kid, I was fascinated by that. It's like, why is he talking with his hand like that? And why is he talking about putting cobras in the shower? I never could understand that, but I was fascinated by it. And Don Pardo, I don't know if you knew this, he's 95 years old now, still doing Saturday Night Live. He recently broke a hip, which is unfortunate, but I think he's recovering nicely. Because you still hear him every week on Saturday Night Live, and I believe that is not a recorded gig. I believe he has to be side stage, it's union, and he's been doing it for 50 years? Wow. I want his job. Of course, you know, if and when Don Pardo was on Saturday Night Live, will not hire a sound alike of Don Pardo, would be disrespectful. But, you know, if anybody at NBC happens to see this, you know, I'm available.
Would that be your ultimate career goal? Like,
yeah.
Like Stuttering John's job on the Tonight Show.
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Or like when Rod Roddy was doing The Price is Right, you know,
yeah.
come on down, you're the next
show
contestant.
just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I don't know who that other guy's, but it sounds like shit.
Yeah, because just reading a script on the side of the stage and making huge money to sound like this,
that's gotta be
great. I'd love that job.
Big house in LA, huge
Yeah,
farm,
absolutely.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Retired to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Why not? Next. Yes, sir.
Upcoming projects?
Yes, I'm under non-disclosure agreements, so I can't mention them by name. At present, I can tell you what I've been working on that is already on. That's Dungeons and Dragons Neverwinter. So I'm doing a lot of the Neverwinter voices right now. I've got 5 or 6 characters in that. And Dota is just out. Dota 2 is out, and I'm let's see, who am I in that game? Enigma, Bloodseeker, Axe, and Admiral Kunkka, who, by the way, if you've seen the artwork, he looks like the most interesting man in the world. I think he's awesome. And he's just, that voice was just a takeoff of Patrick Stewart's, you know, Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. So he just, you know, Admiral Kunkka just talks like this.
Do you ever think it's weird if, like, you watch a media or play a game and you're essentially talking to yourself? You know, because you're doing both of the voices of like 3 characters and they're all your voices. That's gotta be weird.
It's funny you mentioned that. I just, in my panel here last night, I brought a whole bunch of video clips that I didn't even know existed. You know, it's amazing. You go onto YouTube, geeks and gamers are constantly recording their gameplay and posting it. Thank God, because I would have no record of these or remember half the voices I did for these games. So last night in my panel, I was playing a bunch of clips where my characters are talking to each other. Twisted Metal 4 was a good example of that, because at the end of every game when you win, it's my Sweet Tooth spokesperson talking to the winning character, which is another voice of mine, and I get kind of a kick out of that. It's kind of kicky. I sound like Sammy Davis, man. Kicky, nutty. Yes, sir.
Is it tough for you when you're doing all of these roles for games? Like you mentioned, like you did, let's say, 5 characters in one game.
Mm-hmm.
Is it tough to differentiate them when you look at a character and you're like, okay, I'm doing this guy, I'm doing this guy? Does it ever, do you ever make a mistake, or does it ever like come out?
Oh, drift out of character?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think every voice actor, from time to time, might drift out of character because you're walking a fine line in between some of them. It's funny you mentioned, you know, when you're looking at the picture of them, I'm one of the voice actors, the few that I know of, who does not want artwork before I do it. For me, it's a hindrance. If I see the picture of the character in advance, I have in my mind what the voice should sound like, but that's not necessarily what the director wants it to sound like. And if I've seen the picture and I keep looking at it, I'm going to keep going back to that voice. I can't help it. Maybe that's, you know, a weakness. But so I never accept artwork before I do a character voice. I prefer to get into the studio with the director and have them describe to me the size of the character, the ethnicity, what's the jowl like, do they have, you know, if it's a Klingon, you know he's going to talk like this, you know. Tonality, pitch range, smooth or rough voice, you know, they dial it in for me while I'm in the studio and tell me exactly what they want it to sound like. But again, if I look at a picture of the character, it throws me off, so I never look at the artwork until afterwards. Yes.
How do you warm up your voice for
It all depends. I have a technique that I use, a cheat really. If I have to do, if I know I have a session in the morning with a big voice character, you know, with a really, like a Duke Nukem kind of, I go out and sing karaoke the night before and drink a little bit. It's true, because I wake up so like this. Yeah, you get a really low, raspy voice in the morning.
That's what Robert Plant says he does before he goes to sleep.
If I know that I've got a character that's going to be like an old character, with that, you know, kind of airy voice, scream for a few minutes first, and you know, all of the texture is gone from your voice, and everything comes out like this. I always like to take a big bite of a green apple before I record. And you'll notice if you're ever around recording studios, there's always food and there's always green apples, because that puts your mouth moisture at a perfect content, so you get less mouth noise in the recordings.
I'm just wondering, I've heard like Gilbert Gottfried talk about when he goes to do voice stuff, you know, he's just going to be Affleck. That's all he's going to say. But then after, like, you know, they don't just let you leave. It's like, oh, can you make the duck sound angry? Can you make the... What was the worst experience, you know, where you knew they were just going to use the first recording you did, but they made you stay there? What was it for, the one where it's just like, you're there all day, 8 hours, and you're just saying the same freaking thing over, and you know that they're just getting their money's worth out of it?
Well, I got a good one for you there. A Japanese import, a game called Blue Stinger, where I'm the narrator. I do a few characters in the game, but I also narrate the intro and then the trailer they made for it. And this young lady, a Japanese director on the session, said, okay, after end of narration is where you're going to say title of game, Blue Stinger. I said, you want me to say it like that? Yes. Okay. We are rolling. Go ahead. Blue Stinger. No. Blue Stinger. Blue Stinger. No. Blue Stinger. So I think they took take 12 of blue and take 35 of Stinger after an hour of saying it over and over again, and used it in the trailer. Which, when I found it online and finally got to hear it, and I played it in my panel last night, it's so nothing. It's just, Sega presents Blue Stinger. Really? An hour in the studio recording that over and over just for a line that really does, because their logo looked great.
It's like the WNBC with Howard Stern thing, like
yes.
all over. Like, no, I'm saying it right. I thought,
yeah, Blue Stinger was was the worst one for
Blue
me.
Stinger.
Yeah, Blue Stinger. Yes, sir.
You mentioned before about the pictures and about the voices that you don't like to see the picture. Have you ever seen a character in a final version of the game, after the game's been released, where you said, well, I don't know if that was right for that particular role?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There are a number of characters where I don't think my voice was appropriate, or the voice they had me do was appropriate for the character. Like, might have been a big voice, but a tiny character. And I don't, you know, I don't think they're always appropriate. But again, they pay me, so who am I?
Comics, who cares?
I shouldn't be the critic. You've been paid. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah. You said that in one of your games that you played two different characters and they talked to each other. Did you record that two voices at the same time? Did you record one character and then record the second character's dialogue?
No, it's too hard to stay in character. Excuse me. Hold on, water. It was a late night last night. No, we generally don't go back and forth like, I'm certainly not, what's his name? Gosh, I'm sorry, brain fart, give me a second. Seth MacFarlane is very good at doing his characters back to back to back like that, because they're original characters he created and he has no issue with it. I think he's one of the few who actually will do that in a recording session, but typically for video games, you're just doing one character at a time. So interacting with each other, that doesn't happen. In fact, very rarely do two actors get to interact with each other on any of these games. So the way you accurately read your line if you're responding to another character is the director will line read, you know, the preceding line for you so that you can respond to it. But no, the characters are always done separately and then just thrown together. Next. Okay, we're done here. No, I'm kidding. I've got time if you have more questions. Are we done here? Oh, yes, sir.
You said you, for that one particular voice, kind of scream a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting concerned in like voice you
It always comes back. When I did that Twisted Metal 4 game, I lost my voice for a day and a half or 2 days after doing that silly little clown. But it always comes back. I just rested for a while. I have to be careful sometimes if I've got several sessions scheduled over several days. I will not scream in one session and then have to try to record the next day. In fact, emotives, which is what we call more expletives at the end of any game where there's war cries, battle scenes, killing, dying, all that. Those are always the last thing in the session, because they know if we're doing all these screaming deaths and and stabbings and all those emotive noises, that you're going to lose your pipes before you get around to recording the whole game. So those are always done last. Yes.
I'm not sure if this is Nathan or double take questions. I'm not sure if this was asked before, but what is your absolute favorite job?
Video games, you mean? Gotta be Duke Nukem Forever. The lines were so racy, and working with Gearbox was fantastic. They treat me like royalty over there. So, yeah, Duke Nukem Forever, by far my favorite game to record.
So what's the deal from content? What's the one thing that you look forward to all the time coming to ConnectiCon?
Oh, the fans. Every con I go to, it's about the fans for me, because I realized early on, after the first couple of conventions I did years ago, that I would be nowhere without the fans. So I truly embrace them. When we're finished here, as a matter of fact, I'll be outside, shaking hands, taking pictures, hugging people, because I think the fans are the only reason I'm here. If it weren't for them, I'd just be some nobody voice actor. And that's the great thing about being a voice actor and doing this kind of work, is I can come to a convention like this and be a star, but then when I go home, nobody knows who I am. It's great. The anonymity is fantastic.
Have you gone to it? Do you plan to go to the gaming room?
I'll go just to say hi to people, and I won't play any games while I'm here. Are you kidding? Dude, I'm 53 years old, and there are gamers here who are 15, 16 that would, I don't have a chance.
It's like that bongo game I saw put up there. It looks like it's real fun.
Maybe some music. I'm pretty good with games like Rock Band, because I'm a musician. So I just wish it was more like the real instruments. Even the drum kit is nothing like, I play drums, that's nothing like the real drum kit. So it's a little confusing, but those are a lot of fun, and I'm pretty good at those. As far as like, strategy games and first-person shooters and all that, oh, forget it. These kids, I'm 6-7 seconds into gameplay and they kill me. I don't have a chance against these kids, they're too good.
So being a musician, were you ever in a band?
Oh yeah, I'm currently in a couple of bands. I have a cover band in Southern California called Uncle Boogie, and we play like the casino circuit. We do weddings and corporate events. It's all dance music, from everything from classic rock up to Lady Gaga, pretty much. And then I'm in another band where I'm actually the youngest guy in this jam band, rock band. I like to call the band Low T. Seems appropriate. We don't really have a name, but we've played a few gigs here and there, and I sing lead on almost everything in that band, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. But in that band, I don't play.
I tell you, you'd be a singer if I had a band.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I sing for money too. Hence the voice bar. Yes, sir.
Gearbox has rumored a Duke Nukem sequel, new Duke Nukem game. I'm wondering if you could, or if you have, or confirm that or not?
I'll tell you exactly what I know. Generally, the voice work for any game is done 2 to 3 months before release, so it's the last thing. I mean, they'll animate the game all the way through everything but the lip flap, get the voice work, do that, and then release it. So like Duke Nukem Forever, I didn't even know that was coming out until just a few months before it happened.
Delayed for like 14, 15 years.
Yeah,
Did they ever, I'm curious, did they give you multiple calls? Like, did they call you for voice work on that, then throw it out, and then have to call you back later because it took so long in production? They didn't call you until they were ready for it.
Oh yeah, I was not involved in the 14-year process that was going on. I
wonder if they called you every like 3 years. Should we come in and cut them again so they, refresh them?
I would love that they do that, because it's a session fee every time. What was the original question?
If you knew of any confirmation.
Oh, if I knew of anything coming out. The only thing I can tell you right now that I know is that 3D Realms, who originally created Duke Nukem, is currently suing Gearbox. So I believe everything Duke Nukem related is going to be put on hold for quite some time. I don't think there'll be any more Duke Nukem anything for quite a while. I could be wrong. If there is, again, I won't know about it until just a couple months before you do.
Okay.
Yes?
So,
I didn't really play it.
Voice acting.
The voice acting in. I have to be honest with you, that would be my least favorite. Because the voice of Big the Cat is just stupid. And I can't believe they actually used it. The director said, okay, this cat he's a big, stupid, slow cat, so do a big, stupid, slow voice like, okay, how about something like this? And I was just kidding. And the director went, perfect. Stay in that character.
So you're stuck doing that for hours and hours.
Yeah. Fortunately, a few years ago, oh, go ahead.
He likes it.
Oh, you like that voice?
Yeah.
You're twisted. I mean, really, come on, you like it? Wait, my froggy. Really? Fortunately, a couple of years back, they recast that. My friend Kyle Hebert got the part. And so I don't have to deal with Big the Cat anymore. You have another question? Go ahead.
Yeah. He seems like a really nice guy. Is he?
Kyle Hebert?
Yeah.
He's the greatest. He's like a giant teddy bear. Have you guys all met Kyle?
I met him last year.
I met him.
Isn't he awesome?
When he roasted the Dragon Ball Evolution movie, I was laughing and I was blind. I was like, that movie was horrible. He made it so much better. And yeah, he's just an awesome guy.
Yeah, I'm very happy for him. He got a part in Wreck-It Ralph, and that's his top credit now. It's like, way to go, Kyle. I want one of those.
Broke through. Yeah, right.
Exactly. And he's lucky he was able to do that because voice actors don't get parts in these CG animated films. It's all Hollywood A-listers.
Has that been something that's annoyed you in the fact
that has annoyed the hell out of me for years?
In the mid-90s, these A-list celebrities started doing voice work.
Right.
Before then, voice acting was really the realm of the select. Voice actors and actors were separate, and
exactly.
That really had to cut into your, game.
It cut into a lot of things, and what really upsets me is, first of all, I think that these A-list actors are being hired so that parents will buy the kids tickets. Oh, listen, it's Jim Carrey's voice, honey. Let's go to that movie. Mom, I don't want to see that one. We're going to see it. Jim Carrey's in it. Whatever. But the thing is, I can't steal work from Jim Carrey or Steve Carell or those guys. They're, pretty boys who are, trained on stage and film actors. I can't take work from them. Why do they get to take work from me? It's guys like me who suffer when they are doing, voiceovers. And it's funny how it used to be seen as a sellout for them to do commercial work, where commercials are all I ever had for income. I had to do commercial work up until video games. And it was a sellout for them. Now they're all doing commercials all the time.
Yeah. The first one, and then everybody after that.
Donald Sutherland and Martin Sheen, oh yeah, they're all doing, commercial voice acting because it's lucrative and it's unfair. Well, here's the unfair part about it. All of those gigs are union scale, right? Okay, so let's say I got a national commercial for Lowe's at union scale, airing nationally on cable and network television. I might make, $6,000 to $7,000 for doing a voiceover. Well, Martin Sheen's not getting union scale. His agent is negotiating that. He's probably getting 150 grand to do that same work. It's not fair. That's how I see it. I could sit here and cry and bitch and moan all day, but I won't.
That's why I asked the question. I didn't have something to say about that.
Oh yeah.
If when you do Duke Nukem voice, how do you prepare for Duke Nukem voice? You mentioned how you did other voices, but you didn't mention what was your preparation for Duke Nukem?
Well, the inspiration behind the voice originally, I still recall back in 1995 sitting in that studio in San Diego with Lonnie Manella and on the phone with George Broussard with 3D Realms, he and Randy Pitchford, and they basically created Duke. And George Broussard's vision of what the voice was going to be, I think, was different from ours. At one point, while we're trying to dial in the voice, the director, Lonnie Manella, says to me, well, clench your teeth together and think of Dirty Harry. Think of Clint Eastwood from Dirty Harry. Go ahead, make my day. And I went, go ahead, make my day. And she said, that's good, but Duke Nukem is, big steroided dude. Bring the pitch down. I went, go ahead, make my day. And on the other end of the phone is Broussard going, that's it. That's the voice, do that. And that's how it came along. And for me, that's the easiest voice of all of the voice characters I do because it's effortless. I just do this. It's close to my own voice, except less nasally and whiny. I personally don't like my own natural speaking voice. Everybody hears themselves differently than maybe you hear me. I hear me as a whiny little bastard. Who's a bit too nasally. But when I do the Duke voice, I feel like, oh, I wish my voice naturally sounded like that. I like that voice. And it's easy. Yeah.
Time for one more question.
One more question. Who gets the last one? Yes, sir.
How do you feel when you walk around conventions and you see people dressed as the characters you voice?
I think it's awesome. There's generally one Duke player, cosplayer at every convention I go to. There was a fella, I think it was here at ConnectiCon, a fella named Tim Watley who did a really good job as Duke Nukem. I love it. I like getting pictures with those guys. I've got a collection of pictures of me and Duke cosplayers on my wall, and I get a kick out of it. It's it's not like a tribute to me or anything. They love the video game. As the voice, I feel like I'm part of the personality of the character. But I think it's the people the original artists who did the Duke, original renderings who would be most thrilled by these cosplayers playing Duke. And they do a great job. They're inspirational. My oldest daughter is now a cosplayer. She was just at Anime Expo in LA last week, and she's become very, very good at designing costumes, creating them, and making herself look just like the character.
Is it funny when you hear the guy dressed as Duke Nukem trying to
Yeah, because they're
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's gonna sound like you. Yeah.
Oh, Duke Nukem. Right. It didn't even sound that good. But that's okay. It's fun that they're.
It's the sincerest form of flattery.
It is, exactly. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you, press.